stand right here, watch me. Well, good morning. We're happy to be here in Pensacola, and I want to thank General Eifert for being here with us as well. I want to thank the folks here in Escambia County for welcoming us yet again. We are proud to be the most military-friendly state in the nation, and there's no better place to make that a reality and to show people that that's the truth than right here in Northwest Florida. Northwest Florida is home to 8 military installations in our state, and while we are proud to have the protection for the military bases, we also appreciate the role that they play in our communities and our economies, and really helps make these communities here and in other parts of Florida what they are. We have over 20 military installations we have throughout Florida is almost $100 billion annual impact, supporting about 1 million jobs. So we're supportive of our installations, our active duty, our veterans, our National Guard, everyone across the board. And so today we're happy to be here to make a couple great announcements. I've been making some announcements about what's going to be in our budget, which we will roll out very soon. And I'm proud to say that this budget is going to have major investments to support Florida's National Guard. In fact, we're recommending more than $100 million to support our National Guard to ensure they have the means necessary to carry out their mission, whether that be the federal functions that they can do overseas, whether that's supporting disaster recovery and relief operations here in Florida. Across the board, when we need help, we have the Guard there for us. So we're going to have $87.5 million to expand the existing Readiness Center in Miramar, and we're going to build 3 new armories across the state of Florida. These armories will house up to 1,500 soldiers once they are complete. We're also going to do $8.9 million for existing armory maintenance and $2.2 million for new headquarters for the National Guard counter-drug program. This program assists law enforcement efforts to reduce the supply of illegal drugs, will continue to fill an unfortunate void left by the Biden administration's open border agenda. And finally, $5.1 million will be earmarked to support Florida National Guardsmen seeking higher education, which will help them support themselves and their families throughout their civilian careers. For our active duty military and veterans, we're going to be proposing $12.2 million in scholarships for children and spouses of deceased or disabled veterans, and $3.6 million to improve base infrastructure and support projects that will keep our military installations among the best in the nation. Now, the National Guard here in Florida has answered the call time and time again. If we go in Bay County and those areas in the Panhandle, we had National Guard supporting that response and recovery mission with a Category 5 hurricane. And we've seen other instances throughout Florida's recent history where the National Guard was on the front lines of those disaster recovery and response efforts. The National Guard logged, since the COVID-19 pandemic hit, has accounted for over 660,000 man days for the Guard, which is basically the same amount that they did when they did the Hurricane Andrew, which was the biggest disaster that we had faced in quite some time. So from the very beginning of the pandemic, where we actually pioneered the drive-through testing down in Broward County, yet other people from the national federal government come down and look, and they mimic that in other parts of the country. We had National Guard involved in going into nursing homes and providing testing and other types of screening to protect our most vulnerable. When it came time to do vaccine distribution, you had National Guard helping out with that response in a very, very big way. And so we appreciate all the effort that's happened over the last year and a half. It's made a huge difference. We also want to make sure that we have the flexibility and the ability needed to respond to events in our state in the most effective way possible. And some of that will require us to be able to have access and be able to use support in ways that are not encumbered by the federal government or don't require federal government. So I'm going to be recommending in the budget $3.5 million to reestablish the Florida State Guard. The Florida State Guard will act as a civilian volunteer force that will have the ability to assist the National Guard in state-specific emergencies. This funding will support the necessary training, equipment, and other support functions for up to 200 members who can aid in the response to hurricanes, natural disasters, and other state emergencies. We want to be able to have a quick response capability, and reestablishing the Florida State Guard will allow civilians from all over the state to be trained in the best emergency response techniques and have the ability to mobilize very, very quickly. And this is something that many other states have utilized, and I think Florida is in the minority of states that has allowed this to go defunct. So we're happy to be able to bring that back, and I think it'll be something that'll be good. I think you have over 20 state guards are recognized right now. So we'll add to that, and I think it'll be really, really important. So as somebody who's a veteran, I really appreciate what everyone who wears the uniform does in the state of Florida. I think that there's very few places that you would rather be doing duty in the state of Florida. You know, our National Guard, for how big our state is, and we're working to expand the personnel, but you know, they carry a big load. I mean, if you look at other states, much less population, their Guard is a larger percentage of their population than we are. So we have a massive state in terms of land, and then we also have a huge population, and we get it done, and we're obviously working to expand the capabilities. But it's been really, really great to see all the hard work. And look, we're really proud of our military installations. We're proud of what communities like this do to support the people who are on active duty and then the people who are veterans. I can tell you, having been in the Navy, you know, they move you around. That's just typical. Once they get that Florida duty station, they usually never relinquish their Florida residency for the rest of their career, even if they're being sent out to the Pacific Northwest, Hawaii, California, you name it. And that's, I think, because people realize it's a great state to be from, particularly as a veteran. And then, of course, many veterans, even if they serve 20 plus years, when they retire, Florida is probably right now the #1 destination for veterans. And so we're happy about that. We think it's well deserved. We are the top state for veterans, and I think we're going to end up continuing to do that going forward. So we're happy with the announcement. I think this is a real robust commitment to our National Guard, particularly to their infrastructure and personnel. And I want to bring up General Jim Eifert, who's our Adjutant General, to say a few things.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. I'm Major General Jim Eifert, the Adjutant General and the commander of the 12,000 soldiers and airmen of the Florida National Guard. First of all, I'd like to recognize the soldiers and the airmen of the Florida National Guard who, for the past nearly 2 years, these hometown heroes have given back to their communities at an unprecedented scale. Your Florida National Guard has worked more days in state response missions in the past 2 years than they've done in the previous 20 years. That's an indication of the commitment and dedication of these great young people serving on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic and protecting life and property during times of civil unrest and providing relief and support to our neighbors during natural disasters. On top of that, we have continued supporting our nation's war fight, deploying more than 25,000 Florida Guardsmen in support of federal missions since 9/11. In fact, as I speak, there are more than 1,500 soldiers and airmen deployed overseas supporting national security objectives in places like Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, the Ukraine, and even several hundred on the southwest border of our own country in New Mexico and Texas, assisting with the Customs and Border Patrol mission. But we're only able to accomplish this because we have the support of our families, our fellow citizens, and a governor who understands and advocates tirelessly for our military. Governor DeSantis' budget this year is yet another example of his deep commitment to our Florida National Guard soldiers and airmen. This year, the governor is committing the most substantial investment in the Florida National Guard facility program in the entire history of the Florida National Guard. These investments will help us maintain our readiness and hopefully grow our force, enabling us to continue ensuring the safety and security of the citizens of Florida. We simply cannot thank the governor enough for his ongoing leadership and dedication to our guardsmen, and we look forward to proudly continuing our 456-year legacy of service to this great state. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce Major Jacob Wheelock.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Governor. Yep. Good morning. My name is Captain Jake Wheelock with the 1st of the 153rd Cavalry Squadron. On behalf of the soldiers of the Dark Horse Squadron and the 146th Signal Battalion, it's truly an honor to host Governor DeSantis and all of you in attendance today. The Florida National Guard is proud of our service to our nation and state, and we truly appreciate all the support we've received from our local communities, our employers, and the Governor's office. The past couple of years have been very busy and very challenging, and Governor DeSantis' support and his efforts to keep Florida the most military-friendly state in the nation have been truly remarkable. This armory is one of 62 statewide, and its soldiers and airmen and facilities such as this makes our organization a unique and truly community-based organization. Sir, again, thank you so much for coming here. It means a lot to us. We look forward to the many more years of support from your office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're excited about these proposals. We think that they'll go a long way. We think they'll be very, very meaningful, and we're going to continue the momentum of really supporting our military, supporting our veterans, and being good stewards of these installations. So I'm excited. I'm also happy that we have gotten some relief in a court decision against the Biden CMS mandate, which threatened to cause healthcare workers to potentially lose their jobs. I mean, obviously, we created a lot of protections for them with our special session. We were very happy with that. At the same time, you had the federal government holding a sword of Damocles, threatening to take away all Medicare, Medicaid funding from these providers, and that would have been just devastating. And so that is on hold across the country, and that means thousands and thousands of jobs are going to end up being preserved. You look at some of these states that have done the opposite of Florida, that have imposed their own mandates, and you're seeing the capacity to deliver health care diminish, even as they're now facing the beginning of winter COVID waves. So I think we're going to be in a much better position as a result of providing protections for these folks, particularly in an age where a lot of these hospitals and providers are shorthanded. And so why would you want to discard people when that's going on? So I'm glad to have seen that. You know, we did have a case of our own in Pensacola. We are in appeal on that, but the fact that this court in, I think, Louisiana, I think the fact that they ruled, we're in good shape regardless of the outcome of our case. So I really appreciate that. And then I also just think what President Biden's doing by trying to impose more restrictions, you know, he's now going to say that if you go to the Bahamas as an American citizen and you come back, you've got to do a test, a COVID test. But if you just come right across the border illegally, then somehow that's fine and we don't care about the test or vaccination. I just don't understand it. I think all it's going to do is cause a lot of problems. I don't think that they should be imposing any mandates on air travel or any of the things that they have done. I think it has not been anything that's really made much of a difference. I think it's inconvenienced a lot of people. I think it's crimped the willingness of people to travel, and I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. So we're going to look to see ways that we're going to see if the state of Florida can potentially do something to seek some relief on this. I just, you know, this is a guy who demagogued Donald Trump all of last year, saying COVID was Trump's fault. If you elected him, he would shut down COVID. Well, that hasn't happened. Okay, right now you see massive waves in Michigan and in Maine and some of these other places, and you see waves taking off in other states in the Northeast. And that's just the reality. And so he basically sold the public a bill of goods, said that he would shut it down. He's not shutting it down. So what they're doing now, I think, is just, it's not going to have any impact on mitigating COVID. It's more theater. And so all the mandates have been put on hold. None of those were constitutional. And now you're going to have potentially more restrictions. At least they're not going to go through with the insane idea that all Americans would have to quarantine for 7 days upon coming back into the United States, even if they're vaccinated, even if they tested negative. That was actually under discussion. That would have been absolutely ridiculous if that was the case. And so Florida, we have the lowest COVID rate in the country for cases, but then if you look just infections in the COVID Estim project, which is Yale, Harvard, Stanford, they don't look at just cases. They look at all because most infections aren't documented with case counts. They have Florida right now as 1 infection for every 100,000, the lowest in the country. And there's some states that are 120, 130 infections per 100,000. And so, but a lot of those places that have the high infections, they have mandates and they have passports and they have all these things. And so I just think we need to get real here, and we should not be imposing any type of mandates or restrictions on the American people, especially when you don't do that for people that are coming into the country illegally. Okay, take a question or two. Yes, sir.
Governor, your Florida State School Board Association this week withdrew from the National School Board Association, partly because of that role in getting Attorney General Garland to direct the FBI to investigate parents who are perceived to be threatening school board members in the state of Florida and elsewhere. What can you say to reassure parents that they are free to express their opinions and that that is good democracy and not to be intimidated by threats and investigation?
I support what the Florida School Board Association did. I think it was the right thing to get out of the National School Board Association. The National School Board Association was using its organization to advance a partisan narrative and agenda. And they created this letter to try to get the FBI to start basically running interference at school board meetings. You know, they're not interested in having the FBI go after the guy in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which was an intentional act of terrorism, but they somehow think a parent who is upset that there's bad curriculum being put in school or forced masking or all these other things, that if they speak out, that somehow they are a domestic threat. Give me a break. And when this came out, we were opposed to it from the beginning because I knew what they were doing. They were trying to intimidate parents. They did not want parents to be speaking out. And I can tell you in Florida, parents should speak out. We have great folks in law enforcement. They say, oh, well, there's a potential crime. If someone commits a crime in Florida, we're going to hold you accountable. But going and speaking your mind is not that, and it was absolutely an attempt to intimidate. And I would say there is a divide now between some of these elites, people that align with the teacher unions, and parents, where they say that parents really don't have much of a role in what goes on in school. I disagree with that. I think parents have a fundamental role in directing the upbringing of their children, whether it's education, healthcare, all the key things that we as parents really have a right to be heavily involved in. And so in Florida, we passed the Parents' Bill of Rights. I'm very proud of that. We reserved by legislation decisions about COVID vaccines for children to parents, not to government, and I'm proud we did that. But we're going to look to do more to be able to give parents the ability to make their voice heard. And if you have school districts that are not following, say, state standards about what you're supposed to, parents should have a recourse on that. Parents should be involved in knowing what's going on in the schools. I think that's very important. And you know what? In Florida, most of the school districts welcome that. There may be a few who don't, but most of them do. And we were the only big state in the country. Now, granted, I pushed for it and I laid down the law on it. But most of our school districts in 2020, they wanted to go back to school. The union sued us to close the schools, and we said we got to keep them open. And those school districts here in Northwest Florida, they were all on board to make sure to do it right. So I think in Florida, we've got a lot of folks, parents that are concerned, but I think we've got a lot of people in the school districts who want to work with the parents. And so I hope that is really the standard throughout the state of Florida. It's not, unfortunately, the standard in other parts of our country, which we've seen in places like Virginia, where they've really done some bad things to try to keep parents from being able to make their voice heard.
Governor, just about 3 months ago, you were in Santa Rosa County, Garcon Point Bridge, told that you're going to permanently cut those in half, about $2.50. It still hasn't happened yet. Any word on that, buying the bridge back from the...
We're working on it. So, you guys obviously have legislators who are interested in this issue, and we're going to be working for it. We saw an issue. We wanted to provide some relief, and we're committed to getting a good outcome.